So in the rotational mechanics or rotational motion, the first point what we are talking about is moment of inertia, represented by letter I. See, whenever a body is free to rotate about an axis, okay, when a body is free to rotate about an axis, opposes any change in its state of rest of rotation, that inherent property of a body is called as of your moment of inertia. Like if a particle is moving in a circular path, okay, this is your particle of mass, say for example m, this is your axis, and it is been rotating with an angular velocity omega. Radius of this one is, say for example, r. Okay, so if this body is free to rotate about an axis beta, isn't it, opposes any change in its state of rest or in the state of rotation, then that inherent property of that body is called as of what? Moment of your inertia. Okay, now see, for single particle we write the moment of inertia as the formula I is equals to m into your r square. Moment of inertia of this single particle which is rotating is represented by the formula I is equals to m into your r square. M is mass of the particle, r is your perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. R is your perpendicular distance from axis of rotation, AOR. Is it clear, madam? Sure. For more than 2-3 particles, or for a system of your discrete particles, for a system of your particles, the moment of inertia is represented by the formula I is equals to your m1 r1 square plus of your m2 r2 square plus so on up to your mn into your rn square. Isn't, or else I can write that one as summation of your mith particle rith particle square. Okay. So the third one, for continuous bodies, the moment of inertia is calculated with the formula I is equals to integral of your r square into your dm. Clear? For your continuous body, the moment of inertia is calculated with the formula I is equals to your integral of your r square into your dm. Clear? So these are the first 3 formulas which you should remember. Moment of inertia for a single particle is I is equals to m into your r square. For a system of particles, it is m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus so on up to mn rn square. And for continuous body, we use the integration. So integral of your r square into your dm. Clear? Sure. Next, an important term, radius of gyration. Radius of gyration, represented by letter K. Okay. See, radius of gyration is nothing but as a measure of way I can say that in which mass of rotating body is distributed with respect to its axis of rotation, isn't it? Now, with respect to that axis of rotation, we define a new parameter which is called as radius of gyration. It is something like related to moment of inertia and total mass of the body only beta. It is related to what? Moment of inertia and the total mass of your body. So I can directly write the relation here. I is equals to your m into your effective distance. I am representing it with letter K. So I can write from this one, K is equals to your under root of your I divided by your m. That means if I know the moment of inertia of the body, I can calculate the radius of gyration. K is equals to under root of your I by your m. I is the moment of inertia of the body, m is your mass of body, K is your radius of gyration. Is it clear? Is it clear? So radius of gyration is nothing but what, beta? So radius of gyration is nothing but it is a relation between moment of inertia and your total mass. Okay. Simply you can remember I is equals to m into your k square. Don't go in much depth. So K is equals to under root of your I by m. Okay. The next one, theorems of perpendicular and parallel axis. Very important theorems we are having, beta. First one is known as of your perpendicular axis theorem. Perpendicular axis theorem. It is applicable for planar bodies. It is applicable for your plane laminar bodies. Okay. So in this one, Iz must be equal to your Ix plus of your Iy. All of them are perpendicular to each other. Iz will be equal to your Ix plus of your Iy. Like say if this is your rigid body, isn't it? So this is some point. If I'm taking right now on this one axis, on in this one vertically another axis, and this one is of your another axis. So this is your y, this is your z, and this is your x. All of them are perpendicular to each other. So moment of inertia of this plane lamina about an axis perpendicular to the plane of lamina will be equal to sum of your Ix plus of your Iy. Ix, Iy, and Iz are the moment of inertia of the body along your x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis beta. Okay. Next one. Parallel axis theorem. Parallel axis theorem. Okay. So in this one, if this is some rigid body, say suppose center of mass of this body is somewhere here. This is an axis which is passing through the center of mass. Take another axis parallel to this one, which is at a distance of, say, for example, some d. This is parallel to this one beta. Then I can write here moment of inertia of this body I will be equal to moment of inertia passing through center of mass plus mass of that body m into your d square. I is equals to your ICM plus of your m into your d square. ICM is the moment of inertia of the body about the center of mass. I is the moment of inertia of the body about the parallel axis beta. This is your moment of inertia of I. This is your ICM. Distance between them is nothing but equal to your d. Okay. M is the total mass of the body and d is the perpendicular distance between the two parallel axes. Okay. So d is equals to perpendicular distance between two parallel axes. Okay. ICM is your moment of inertia of center of mass. I is your moment of inertia of your body about a parallel axis. About a parallel axis. And your M is your total mass. Clear? So there are some of the things you need to be remembering in this one. So the first formula is once again I is equals to your m into your r square. For a system of particles, we will be using the summation if the particles are in the level of countable. For continuous bodies, we will be using the integration part of relation. Integral of your for continuous bodies, we will be using the formula I is equals to your integral of your r square into dm. Clear? Next one. Radius of gyration k is equals to under root of I by your m. And we are having two theorems beta. One is perpendicular axis theorem, another one is parallel axis theorem. Perpendicular axis theorem is associated with the laminar body and parallel axis theorem is associated with your any body applicable. So for perpendicular axis theorem, Iz is equals to Ix plus Iy, and parallel axis theorem, I is equals to your ICM plus of your m into your d square part of relation. Clear for everyone? Sure. The next one. Moment of inertia of some different bodies. Moment of inertia of your different bodies. Number one. So first one I'm writing here. For an axis perpendicular to the plane of the ring, then perpendicular axis of your plane of your ring. This one is your ring. This is your axis passing through the center and perpendicular to the plane. This is your distance. Moment of inertia about the center of mass will be equal to m into your r square. Okay, for the ring. In the same way, for hollow cylinder, also the same beta. So if I'm taking for your hollow cylinder, it is a combination of your n number of rings kept one above the other. This is your axis. This is your radius r. So even for this one, the moment of inertia is m into your r square. So for the ring, it is mr square, and for the hollow cylinder is also mr square. Next one, very important. Now if I'm talking about your disk, same, about an axis passing through the center and perpendicular to the plane. So this is your disk, and this is your axis passing through center, and this is your total mass of the body, right? So moment of inertia about the disk, about the center of mass, will be equal to your m into r square divided by 2. No need of derivations right now, beta. The same way, if I'm keeping n number of discs one above the other, like say I'm having 50 discs like this, so that will form for me what, beta? If I'm keeping one above the other, it will form for me a solid disc, sorry, solid cylinder. So this is your axis. Okay, so next one is for your solid cylinder. For solid cylinder also, moment of inertia will be the same. So it is ICM will be equal to m into r square divided by 2. Clear, beta? So for the ring, it is mr square. For hollow cylinder also mr square. For the disc, it is mr square by 2. For solid cylinder also, it is mr square by 2. Okay, so that one was for fifth one. Moment of inertia for a thin rod, a beta. For the thin rod, if this is the situation and axis is passing through center and perpendicular to the plane, moving with an angular velocity, moment of inertia for this one will be equal to your m into L square divided by 12. Sixth one. The same way, thin rod, but now the axis is at one end, beta. If the axis is at your one end, moment of inertia for this one will be equal to your m into L square divided by 3. Clear? Next one. Seventh one. For a solid sphere, about its diameter, for the solid sphere, I is equals to, very important, beta, 2 by 5 m into your r square. For a solid sphere about an axis passing like this, I is equals to 2 by 5 mr square. Eighth one. For your hollow sphere, same thing, beta. For your hollow sphere, about its diameter or about its plane, moment of inertia will be equal to, ICM will be equal to 2 by 3 m into your r square. This one is also your ICM. Clear? So these are the some of the things you need to remember for the given conditions, beta. For solving of your numericals, you need to remember that. Excuse me. Okay, just go through it once, beta. For the ring, ICM is equals to your mr square. For the hollow cylinder also, m into your r square. For the disk, moment of inertia is your mr square by 2. For solid cylinder also, mr square divided by 2. This formula should be all in your tips, beta. For a rod, when axis is passing through center, mr square by 2, ml square by 2. If the axis is passing through one end, it is ml square by 3. For solid sphere, it is 2 by 5 m into mr square. And for hollow sphere, it is 2 by 3 into your mr square. Got it? Even we are having for rectangular plate, isn't it? So like say about an x-axis, y-axis, IZ part deflation, we can write for thick rod also. There are some applications, but that level will be not much be useful for your NEET examination. So don't take the tension related to that one. Okay. Next one. angular displacement. Angular displacement represented by letter theta. It is nothing but angle swept by this one, beta. Angle swept by the given condition part deflection, I can say. It's an angle swept by a line which has been perpendicular to your axis of your rotation. It is called as of what? Angular displacement. Okay. It describes for the pure rotation only, beta. Angular displacement is represented in terms of your theta part of relation. Clear? Like a displacement in the kinematics, we write it the x. In the circular motion, we write it by the term as of your theta. Okay. Like when a particle is moving in a circular path like this is a point, this is a point. If I'm moving from point A to your point B, this is your angle swept. There is nothing but theta. This is the radius r, this is your radius r, this is your arc length. So theta will be equal to, angle will be equal to your arc length divided by radius. Okay, so theta will be equal to your L divided by R. Theta will be equal to your L divided by R, or L is equals to R into theta. So this is your L from A to B. Okay, so how do you define an angle, beta? Theta is equals to arc length divided by your radius. Okay, and one more term we need to remind in this one. Next one is average angular velocity. Simple condition. So V average is equals to your how much? I hope everyone remember it. Angular velocity is represented by letter omega. Omega is equals to rate of change of angular displacement, that is d theta divided by your dt. That means theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by t2 minus of t1, isn't it? So average is represented by delta theta divided by delta t. Unit is theta is measured in radians, time is measured in seconds. So omega is equals to radian per second. Okay. Omega is equals to your radians per second. Okay, beta. Next one. If I'm talking about a relation between linear and angular velocity. I hope everyone remember this one. What is the relation between your angular velocities and linear velocities, or angular displacement or linear displacement? Can anyone tell me, beta? First one, arc length is equals to r into theta. Second one, V is equals to your, what is the relation, beta? V is equals to your r bar cross of your omega bar. V is equals to your r into your omega, isn't it? So if I differentiate the velocity with respect to time, so we'll be getting some of the terminologies. A is equals to your r into your alpha, and centripetal acceleration will be equal to your v square divided by r, or it is also equal to your dv by your dt. Centripetal, this one is your time initial. So resultant acceleration will be equal to under root of your ac square plus of your at square. This already I told you in the circular motions, beta. Okay, sure. Next one, and very important, moment of force. Moment of force. Moment of force is nothing but torque, represented by letter tau. Okay, so tau is equals to r bar cross of your f bar. R tau is equals to your r into f into your sine theta. Very important relation, beta. Tau is equals to r into your f sine theta, or tau is equals to your r bar cross of your f bar. Okay, So tau is the torque acting on a body, r is the position vector, and F is your force acting on the given condition. Clear? In this one more term we'll need to remember, that is nothing but a field couple. Couple is nothing but a pair of forces, beta. Like say on this particle, there is one force acting in this direction. There is one force acting in this direction. Like say for example, one force is your F here, another force is your F here. And this is your axis of the rotation on which it is moving. This distance, if it is D, this distance is also your D. So torque acting on this one will be equal to your F into your 2D. A couple does not exert a net force on object beta, even though it exerts a torque on that one. So torque due to couple is always equals to the magnitude of the one of the force into perpendicular distance between their line of your action. So tau will be equal to your force into your the distance between the two forces which you have been acting. That is D plus D, that will be equal to your 2D. Okay. Sure. Equilibrium of rigid body, very important term beta. Equilibrium means what beta? Net force acting on the body is zero in translational. See, for translational motion, for translational equilibrium, sum of your total forces acting on the system must be equal to zero. Okay, that means if total external force acting on the system is zero, then center of mass of the body will always remain in equilibrium. For rotational equilibrium, sum of your torque must be equal to zero. That means if the net torque acting on the system is zero, then the body is said to be in rotational equilibrium. If net external torque acting on body is zero, okay, then the body is in rotational equilibrium. Okay, so for translation equilibrium, the net force must be equal to zero, and for rotational equilibrium, the net torque acting on the system must be equal to your zero. Is it clear? See once again, beta. Angular displacement theta. Theta is equals to arc length divided by radius. So theta is equals to L by R, or L is equals to R into theta. So average velocity or angular velocity will be equal to your omega is equals to d theta by dt, or else theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by t2 minus t1, or delta t by delta t. Unit is radian per second. Theta is always measured in your radians. Relation between linear velocity and angular velocity, if I am writing beta, even kinematic equations if I am writing, omega will be equal to your v is equals to your v naught plus alpha into t. Second equation, theta is equals to omega naught into t plus half into alpha into your t square. Third equation, v square, that is omega square minus omega naught square is equals to 2 into alpha into your theta. V is equals to how much for me? R omega. Tangential acceleration is dv by dt or r alpha. Centripetal acceleration is v square by r. And you know that when a particle is moving in the circular path, centripetal acceleration acts towards the center and tangential acceleration will act along the tangents. That is the reason we'll get the resultant here A. So A is equals to under root of your AC square plus of your AD square, which is making angle theta with your vertical. Okay. Next one is torque. Torque is nothing but force into perpendicular distance. So tau is equals to Fr into your sin theta. And what do you mean by couple? Couple is nothing but magnitude of one of the force into the distance between the line joining between the two forces. That is nothing but d plus d, that will be equal to 2d. And for a body to be in rotational equilibrium beta, for translation equilibrium, the net force acting on the system must be equal to zero. Whereas for rotational equilibrium, the net torque acting on the system must be equal to your zero. Isn't it? So for rotational equilibrium, net torque acting on the system must be equal to your zero. Isn't it? That means if net external torque acting on the body is zero, then the body is in your rotational equilibrium. Clear, beta? Sure. Next one, an important term, beta. Angular momentum. Angular momentum. Represented by letter L bar. It is also a vector quantity, beta. Angular momentum is nothing but L bar is equals to your R bar cross P bar. L is equals to your RP into sine theta. It is something like of your cross product, beta. It is something like of your cross product. Like A bar cross B bar is equals to magnitude of A, magnitude of your B into your sine theta. Clear? For system of particles, more than 2-3 particles if they are present, beta, I can write angular momentum is equals to your L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus so on up to your Ln. Any number of particles until. So angular momentum of a particle is L is equals to your RP. Or else you can even write like this. L is equals to your R into momentum is mv into your sine theta. That means L is equals to your mvr into your sine theta in terms of your particle of mass. For one particle, two particle, three particle, I can write L is equals to mvr into your sine theta. Okay. Angular momentum in case of rotation. In case of rotation, angular momentum will always be equal to how much, beta? I into your omega. L is equals to I into your omega. If the particle is moving in the circular path, L is equals to how much for me? I into your omega. It is, this expression is valid for any object, beta, regardless its symmetry. Okay. Whatever may be the symmetry it may be, it is applicable for all the rotating bodies in the given conditions. Clear? Next one. Dynamics of rotational motion. Okay. That means rotation about a fixed axis is directly similar to the linear motion in case of kinematics and dynamics. Okay. So I am writing the similarities of that one finally. First thing what you need to remember in this one is your work energy theorem. Work energy theorem. What is the work energy theorem, beta? Can anyone tell me? Work done by all the forces must be equal to change in kinetic energy, or change in rotational kinetic energy is equals to total work done or net work done on the system. Okay. Change in rotational kinetic energy is equal to net work done, is equals to your net work done. That is, change in kinetic energy will be equal to work done, net work done, isn't it? So that is your half into your I into this one is omega 2 square minus omega 1 square will be equal to integral of your tau into your d theta. Work done. Work done in rotation is represented by force into theta. No? Here force is represented by torque. Displacement is represented by your theta. So half into I into your omega 2 square minus omega 1 square will be equal to integral of your tau into your d theta. Clear, beta? And one more important term which you need to remember in this one is angular impulse. angular impulse, or you can say angular momentum theorem. Angular momentum theorem. Angular impulse. That is line integral of your tau into your dt will be equal to your impulse, or that is equals to change in angular momentum, or that is equals to your I into your omega 2 minus omega 1, because L is equals to I omega na beta. So it is integral of your tau into your dt is equals to your angular impulse beta represented by J. That is also equal to delta L. Delta L is change in momentum, change in angular momentum. L is equals to I omega, so it is I will be common, so it is omega 2 minus of omega 1. So J is called as what beta? Angular impulse. Delta L is called as what? Change in angular momentum. J is your angular impulse. Okay. And delta L is your change in angular momentum. Change in your angular momentum. Clear? Next one. Conservation of angular momentum. Did anyone remember this one, beta? Conservation of your angular momentum, isn't it? So what is the net torque beta? External torque acting on the system will be equal to rate of change of angular momentum, that is dl divided by dt. Okay. If external torque acting on the system is 0, then dl divided by dt is equals to 0. And you know the differentiation of anything, if it is becoming 0 means L bar must be equal to what for me? Constant. So if net torque acting on the system is 0, then angular momentum is said to be conserved, or it is said to be constant. That means I1 omega 1 will be equal to your I2 into your omega 2. Isn't it? In terms of your time period, I1 into omega is 2 pi by your T1 will be equal to your I2 into your 2 pi by your T2. 2 pi will get cancelled. So it is I1 divided by T1 is equals to your I2 divided by T2. 1 by T is nothing but frequency. So it is I1 into N1 is equals to your I2 into your N2. Whatever the body he gives, that body's moment of inertia you can write and simplify for the problem part application. Clear? See, for Earth, if I'm writing moment of inertia for the Earth, I is equal to how much better? 2 by 5 m into your r square into time period 2 pi by capital T. That must be equal to what constant? That means time period is directly proportional to your r square. Okay, that means delta T by T will be equal to 2 times of delta R by R. In percentage, if I'm writing delta T by T into 100 is equals to 2 into delta R by R into your 100. See it better once again. Angular momentum. So what is an angular momentum? Vector quantity. L is equals to your R bar cross B bar. It is something like of your like cross product beta. Direction is also given by your right hand thumb rule. A bar cross B bar is equals to mod A into mod B into sine theta. For a particle, if I am writing L is equals to your momentum is M into V into your sine of your theta. Okay, so L is equals here MVR into your sine theta. For a system of a particles, it is L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus so on. Now, in case of rotation, when the body is rotating, then angular momentum is represented by the formula L is equals to I into omega. Kinetic energy of rotating body beta. Kinetic energy of your rotating body is kinetic energy will be equal to your half into I into your omega square. This can also be written as kinetic energy is equals to half into I value can be written as of your L by omega into omega square. This square and this one will get cancelled. So kinetic energy is also equal to your L into omega divided by 2. That is your kinetic energy. Is it? Or else I can even write the kinetic energy like this. See, kinetic energy is also equal to your half into I. Omega value can be written as L by your I whole square. That means this I and this one square will get cancelled. So this will become for me L square divided by 2 into your I. Okay, like that also I can write it out. Work energy theorem. Change in rotational kinetic energy. Change in your rotational kinetic energy is equal to the net work done. That means half of your I into omega 2 square minus omega 1 square is equals to integral of your tau into d theta. The same way angular impulse or angular momentum. Integral of tau into d theta is equals to how much beta? Angular impulse or that is also equal to your change in your angular momentum. That is I into omega 2 minus omega 1. Clear beta? See, generally the problem on this one is angular momentum conservation. Let's see. A rod is hinged at your A and can rotate freely in vertical plane. Okay, so I can say that a particle of mass m moving with speed u hits and sticks to the rod. So such type of a problems will be there, but something like this. This is your rod. This is your point which is been fixed at a point A. This is your mass capital M. And here there is a particle of mass m which is being moving with velocity u. And the distance at which it is hitting is at a point of your A. Length of this one is right now, say for example, L. So rod is hinged at a point A. This is the point where it is been hinged. And it can rotate freely in the vertical plane beta. A particle of mass m moving with the speed of your u hit it and sticks to it after the collision. So we can conserve the momentum. Only conservation of angular momentum can be applied at the point of your hinge beta. So what I can do is we can apply conservation of angular momentum. Conservation of your angular momentum only at point A. Only at your point A. Okay, that means initial momentum of the particle m into u into your A must be equal to I into your omega. So I will be equal to your m into your L square M capital M into your L square divided by 3 because at one end into your M into your A square mass of the particle into your omega. So this is your mu into your A. So from this one you can simplify and do the problems. That means initial particular momentum must be equal to rotational final angular momentum. So such type of a models will be getting a lot better. So m into u into this perpendicular distance is equals to moment of inertia about this one, about a rod which has been hinged right now here. It is rotating about this one end. So moment of inertia is I is equals to ICM plus. Moment of inertia I is equals to your ICM plus of your m into your r square. ICM is m square by your 3 plus m into your a square into your omega. So simplify it, we'll get the answer for that one. So it is one of the famous model how we need to remember. We'll try to do this all things in the terms of your numericals beta. One more important term is conservation of angular momentum. Tau will be equal to your how much will be dl by dt. If net external torque acting on the system is 0, then angular momentum is said to be conserved. That means angular momentum is constant. That is I1 omega 1 will be equal to your I2 into your omega 2. Yeah. So revise it once again, beta, whatever you have done till now. First one is we talked about moment of inertia. Moment of inertia of the particle is equal to how much, beta? For a single particle, if I am writing I is equals to your m into your r square. I is equals to your m into your r square. R is your perpendicular distance from axis of rotation. For continuous bodies, we'll be using integral of dm into r square. For more than 2-3 particles, we'll be using the process of your summation. Radius of gyration, it is something the relation between moment of inertia and the total mass of the body beta. So here I will be writing I is equals to m into k square, or k is equals to under root of your I by m. We have two theorems beta, perpendicular axis theorem and parallel axis theorem. Perpendicular axis theorem is associated with a plane laminar body. Iz is equals to Ix plus of your Iy. And parallel axis theorem, I is equals to your ICM plus of your m into d square, where d is perpendicular distance between two parallel axes. ICM is moment of inertia about the center of mass, and I is the moment of inertia of the body about a parallel axis, and m is your total mass. Moment of inertia of the different bodies beta. For a ring, it is mr square. For hollow cylinder, it is your mr square. For the disc, it is mr square by 2. And for solid cylinder also, it is mr square by 2. Whereas for the thin rod about an axis passing through center, ml square by 12. For a thin rod, the axis is at one end, it is ml square divided by 3. For solid sphere about its diameter, ICM is equals to 2 by 5 mr square. And hollow sphere, it is 2 by 3 m into your r square. Okay. Then next one is angular displacement. Theta is equals to arc length divided by radius, or theta is L by R, or L is equals to R into theta. And unit of that one is radians. Angular velocity is rate of change of angular displacement beta. So it is delta T by delta T. Unit is radians per second. Then relation between linear and angular velocities beta. S is equals to R into theta. V is equals to your R bar omega, R into your omega. Tangential acceleration is R alpha or dV by dt. Centripetal acceleration is V square by your R. So net acceleration will be under root of AC square plus AT square. Kinematic equations also, if I am writing omega is equals to omega naught plus alpha into T, and theta is equals to omega naught into T plus half into alpha into theta square, and omega square minus omega naught square is equals to 2 alpha into your theta. Moment of force or torque, tau is equals to R bar plus F bar, or tau is equals to RF into sin theta. Okay, then equilibrium. For the rotational equilibrium, the net torque acting on the system must be equal to your 0. Now, angular momentum, L is equals to R bar cross P bar, or L is equals to RP into sin theta. For a system of a particles, L1 plus L2 plus L3. For one particle, two particle, it is L is equals to mvr into your sine theta. In case of rotation, I can write L is equals to I omega, and rotational kinetic energy of the body is half into I into your omega square. Work energy theorem says that change in rotational kinetic energy is equals to net work done. So change in work done will be equal to half of your I omega 2 square is equals to integral of your tau into your d theta. Next one is angular impulse. Integral of tau into d theta is equals to angular impulse. That is also equal to change in angular momentum. That is also equal to I into omega 2 minus omega 1. Next one, conservation of angular momentum. Angular momentum is said to be conserved if net external torque acting on the system is 0. That is I1 omega 1 is equals to I2 omega t. Omega value, if I am writing in terms of time period, 2 pi by t. 2 pi gets cancelled. I1 by t1 will be equal to I2 by t2. 1 by t is your frequency, so it is I1 n1 is equals to your I2 into your n2. Now for the earth moment of inertia, we can take a solid speed 2 by 5 mr square. Time period is 2 pi by t, that will be constant. That means t is directly proportional to your t square by your r. So what is the relation between them? I can say right now, beta. So it is r square divided by t will be equal to your r2 square. So it is directly proportional. T1 by t2 is equal to r2 square by r1 square. Okay. Sure. So if I'm writing in terms of error, delta t by t is equal to 2 into delta r by r. In terms of percentage, into 100 you do it, will get the percentage participation. Okay. Look, we'll try to do the problems on this one in the next section of your class, beta. Okay. So take care, beta. Bye.